Well, I'm really excited to be here because I have questions for you. I'm a caregiver,
Mm,
and we're getting a wheelchair,
yeah,
a motorized wheelchair, and it raises many
yeah,
questions for me in my household. First of all, how do we get one? How do we get it in the house?
yeah,
And how do I work with my wife in the chair?
yeah. Lots of big changes and lots of questions. To get a wheelchair, you'll work with your PCP or your neurologist, or even reach out to ALSA. They're very helpful in connecting you with a multidisciplinary clinic or with experts that can help you get that equipment. Your wife would need to get an evaluation by a physical therapist or an occupational therapist. And that's when the wheelchair provider would be brought in as well to do the evaluation. Once the evaluation is complete, the documentation is written up and gathered together from the doctor and the therapist, and then the wheelchair provider specs. And the wheelchair provider submits it to the insurance, and we wait for the approval and review from the insurance and how much they're going to pay. We would talk to you about a copay if there is one. And then once we get your blessing, we would put it on order. And then it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get it to you.
So once it's in my home,
Mm-hmm.
how do I know how to use it?
Once the wheelchair is in your home, we will make sure that you know how to use it. It's a pretty complex piece of equipment, and we want to make sure that you feel safe and comfortable with all the ways to utilize the chair.
Will both my wife and I have to learn how to use it?
It is important that both you and your wife know how to use the chair. So obviously, your wife would need to know how to operate it, how to drive it, how to turn it on, turn it off, utilize the tilt, recline buttons, and all the functions of the chair. And if for some reason she's feeling weak that day or she's unable to operate it, we're going to show you a way that you can disengage the motors and you can push the chair through the house if you needed to, but also you'll get comfortable with driving the wheelchair as well, just from the side in case you needed to jump in and help out. But we're going to also make sure that you are very comfortable with the care of the chair, how to charge the batteries, how often, and when to bring it in for maintenance.
So if we reach a point where my wife is too tired to control the chair,
Yeah.
can I push it, or how do I move the chair?
Yeah, you can. Yes, you can move the chair yourself. There are a couple of ways of doing that. The chair is very heavy, so you can freewheel it. We call it take it out of gear, and you can push it, but it's pretty heavy. So that's going to be really hard to do that for any distance. Another option is to get an attendant control that you can use off the back of the chair. It's just another small compact joystick that can be used to drive the chair, just like the one that your wife would be using.
And does the battery eventually wear out?
So it really depends on how the chair is used, but the batteries can last 1 to 2 years, depending. But other things that need maintenance on the chair, the tires, so the tires will wear down. The motors will need maintenance and typically replaced within 1 to 2 years. So there's a number of things that need to be checked out on the chair.
And who does that?
The wheelchair provider will do that for you.
And if I have a chair and I'm on travel, can I just plug it into a regular outlet in a hotel or a motel?
Yeah, it's just a standard outlet. You can plug the charger in. So talk about charging, is you do want to charge the chair every single night.
And once I charge the chair, how long does a charge last?
That's a really good question because it varies quite a bit. If you're using just the chair inside the house, most of the time it's just a nice, smooth, even surface. It's going to last closer to 2 days within the home. But if you're out and you're out over rough terrain, you're doing a lot of hills, or you're doing rocky, uneven surfaces, it's going to last a lot less. If you're using it outside, you can count on it to be all day long. Typically, it's about 12 to 15 hours, depending.
I'm very concerned about getting the chair in the doors, in and out of the doors. Now, our hallway's big enough, but are the doors big enough? And then once in the doorway, moving it around in the bedroom.
Well, through the process, when the wheelchair provider picks out the chair with the clinical team, they make sure that that chair is going to work in your house. So whether they come out to the home, which typically is what they'll do, or they obtain measurements of your home and understand where you're going to be using it or where your wife will be using it, the team will make sure that it works properly and moves around freely in your home.
Is it typical to have to modify doorways or rooms to accommodate the chair?
It really depends. Typically, wheelchairs are about 27 inches wide for a power wheelchair. Most doorways are at least 30 inches wide, so most power chairs will go through those doorways unless it's for some reason, a very narrow doorway. That's why we come out and measure and make sure that it will fit through your doors before we get that model.
We fly. Can we take the wheelchair with us on the plane?
Oh yeah, you absolutely can. They would transfer your wife into a transport chair, to an aisle chair basically, to get her onto the plane. And they would take the chair and they would put it underneath in the cargo area. And I'm glad you asked that because that's a very important thing to know as you're doing that. Some things can go wrong, and airlines vary as far as how comfortable they are with that type of equipment. So they will always do it, and some know how to care for a chair better than others. So the best thing to do, Lorenzo, is if you're traveling, best thing to do is to take like anything that's movable off the chair. There's going to be pieces that can be removed, like the headrests, the footrests, and different things that could get lost or misplaced. You'd want to take them off and carry them on with you.
I really appreciate your answering my questions. I had so many questions because this is all new for me. Thank you.
You're welcome, Lorenzo. It was really nice visiting with you.